Welcome, everybody, to Relationship Fun and Games.
And Fights Clean Sex Dirty TV. We so appreciate you being here tonight, whether you're here live, maybe it's today for you, or maybe you're even watching the replay. But we understand that life is full, life is busy, but your relationship is important, your happiness is important, and certainly the quality of your relationship is going to determine the quality of your happiness. As we like to say, wonderful is worth it, right?
Wonderful is worth it, and safe being
nasty for your sex life, right? Not over the dinner table, you know, bring it to the bedroom, or I don't know, maybe get nasty on the dinner table, but but not nagging, not complaining, you know, that's where usually people get nasty. And tonight we're going to talk about a whole different way of getting nasty. I'm really excited. Tonight's topic is how to keep the sex dirty during. It is the spiciest one of the season usually, so hold on to your hats and get your notepads and your calendars out. You're going to want to put some reminders in about this one so that these become habits. Although I have a feeling that tonight's going to be so hot, they won't need the reminders. They're probably not going to forget what they've learned here tonight. And I'll tell you why it's going to be so hot is because we have a very hot expert here with us tonight.
Our good friend, and you know, one of the people, if I were to turn to anyone for like hot, juicy sex advice during topic, it would be Philippe.
Yes. Philippe Lewis is one of our beloved friends from the Bay Area. Thanks so much for being here tonight, Philippe.
It's good to be here.
So we're going to share your bio. We've got it up on the screen there because we also know that people are visual and we really want to stimulate as many parts of the brain as possible. I'm a visual person. We know that sexiness is visual too, right? So we want them to get a full soak in of all of who Philippe is. Of course, all of who Philippe is in 5 bullet points here or less. But Philippe Lewis, he is a love coach, a certified sexological body worker, which a little bit about that as well. I mean, this man has lots of training and respect, because there's a lot of people out there that do this kind of work in helping people with their expressing their sensuality and their sexuality in a safe way. And it can get a little weird, a little wonky out there with people as well. And I can tell you, we wouldn't have anyone on this show that we didn't implicitly respect and trust. And Philippe is absolutely one of those people. 18 years here exploring love, relationships, intimacy, sensuality, sexuality with individuals, communities, whether he's been teaching or writing, coaching, events. We're both speaking at the same event this weekend. We'll both be at the Lucidity Festival this weekend, so looking forward to that. And so he gets to speak at events, and he's always aiming to help men, women, lovers, you know, they want to express themselves in life as lovers, and really even through that be better humans, which I love that, because Raj and I are up for having the world be a better place. And why not have the world be a better place through expressed sensuality and sexuality? But he is more than his profession and self-expression. But wait, there's more.
There's more. More than meets the eye.
He is a father, a lover, a partner, a husband, a teacher, producer, writer, social artist, coach, counselor, and so much more. He's one of those you want to scratch and sniff and find out even more about.
I love this bullet about that his deepest wish is to leave everyone a little bit better and a little bit more delighted wherever he goes. You know, wherever we see Philippe, he immediately brings a lightness, a lightheartedness, a play. And he also is a master at one of the things that is dear to my heart, which is ambiance.
Yes.
He creates amazing sensual ambiance in every event that we go to, that he's participating at that level in. So love that about Philippe.
Yes. Thanks, Philippe. Anything you want to say or tell the audience, those people that are either new, you know, about yourself, how you came to be in this kind of work, or just your motto?
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Usually when I do interviews like this, there's just the person just reads and sort of breezes through the bio, and then it's all over. And So I love the way you did it, and I love that you were both doing it and kind of adding your little pieces. As you were speaking, I just realized that when I was a kid, I started out as a nerd. I was a nerd. I love science. I love I love the outdoors, and my dad was an engineer, so it was always about everything. Everything with him was about how do things work. Just telling a friend of mine today that I sort of eventually upgraded from things and animals and plants and the scientific aspect of things to people. Like I've upgraded my desire to understand. I've upgraded to a level of understanding people, because as I said, is people are just like machines. Everything makes sense when they behave, when they react. It all makes sense, and it's more of a matter of they're just infinitely complex machine. And if you can just slow down and really start paying attention, you start understanding what's going on and what you can do to really make a difference in people's lives. Either by supporting them or to do your own personal growth. So that's why
slowing down.
Slowing down. And we're going to be talking about this today. You know, it's funny, you were mentioning how it's going to get nasty and hot, and I was just realizing like one of my things is slowing down, which at first glance may not seem like the hottest thing. And listening, that may not immediately seem like, oh, I'm going to give this person another orgasm or 5 or 10, or we're going to go for more pleasure. And we get to appreciate a little bit more. Maybe we get to notice a little bit more. And so, so here I am.
So yes, so stay tuned, everyone. We are going to get to those and others of Philippe's tips. We were just reviewing them, and we're super excited about them. We were actually telling Philippe that we often have some of our best sex right after these shows.
And we thought that might be the case tonight.
Let's go and practice.
So we're clearing our schedule tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, you get to go to bed immediately and go and practice.
It's the action option, right, honey? Yes, our action option there. Yes, you'll learn more about the action option too if it's your first time watching the show tonight. Raj, you want to show them about the format of the show?
Yeah, so when Gabby and I got married, if you're new to our show and our content, someone at our wedding shared with us the secret to staying married, and that is to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty.
Well, and not just staying married, because we want to be really clear that happily married, yes, that we don't. In fact, I don't ask couples, how long have you been together? I ask couples, are you in love? And sometimes they actually physically are taken aback by that question, because I want to really shift how people measure relationships, so it's not about how long you've been together, but actually how happy you are. Mm-hmm. Sorry, just to interject there.
No, it's great. Yeah, we don't want to collapse being married with being happily married, because being unhappily married is worse than not being married.
Or paired, or in any other structure. I mean, today it's a modern day, it's a Burger King world. You can have it your way. And there's a lot of different varieties of ways of relating in relationships. So yeah.
Divided our work into how to keep the fights clean and how to keep the sex dirty. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is having our tips and tools be very applicable when you need them most. You know, we've done a lot of work in this realm, and you may have experienced this in some of your endeavors to learn about relationship, that a lot of information can be general or broad or theoretical or spiritual. We really pride ourselves on making our content applicable, and everything that we come up with, we use. And
really, we use it because we came up with it because we needed it.
And we found that it's really great to actually distinguish what you use in different time frames of either fighting, keeping the fights clean, and the sex dirty.
A perfect example. You don't want to use the tools that are meant to be used after a fight. You don't want to use those during a fight. You're liable to get your head ripped off. You got to wait until after the fight to use those reconnection tools sometimes. Some of them, not all. But timing is everything, as they say. But let's show them about tonight's topic.
Great.
So fights clean, sex dirty, and tonight is sex dirty during, right? We've already covered before as it starts. Next week we'll be looking at after. So tonight we're going to dive into during. And if you are watching us live, halfway through the show, we'll let you know to refresh your page. And if you'd like to join us live, you can ask a question. You can put a question in chat. And if you do join us live then and stay to the end here, we'll go ahead and send you this cheat sheet, which has 16 of our top tools for keeping the fights clean and keeping the sex dirty, 8 for each, summarized just into one sentence. You can print it, Put it on your fridge, put it in your wallet, even download it and put it on your phone. Put it on a screensaver. Today I changed actually my screensaver to, we're in the season of play, and we have a new wedding vow this month for April. I promised to play, dance, laugh, play, and cry with you. And so I took all these images that represented that and put it on my screensaver. It's just an example of the little structures. You don't have to work hard at relationship. Take 5-10 minutes, put some things on your screensaver, and then you have a whole month of it coming to you. Maybe even take your notes of what you learned from Philippe tonight. Put that on your screensaver. Well, maybe you want that in your reminder, not your screensaver. You never know when that might pop up.
I'm just imagining what would it look like while in the middle of sex? Like, wait, let's just look at the computer for a minute.
Well, I will tell you, and at least in the heat of an argument, we have had people write to us and say, thank you for doing that. They've actually bookmarked some of them on their phone. And when they're in the middle of an argument, we'll go right to the ones of like, okay, because when you're so mad, you can't think of what you should do. And so they'll go straight to the notes of what should they do in the middle of an argument. I don't know what to do, but I know it's categorized here somewhere.
Great. So one of the things that you can do is look through our website for different content in our blogs or the recordings of our past episodes of this show, and look for the symbol depending on what type of content you're looking for, because it's all categorized as these different symbols indicate. This
little logo here. Yep. Yep. You want to look for the devil horns for keeping the sex dirty, and look for the halo for keeping the fights clean. So if this topic of how to keep the sex dirty during is really what you're here for tonight, go ahead and look around for that symbol. You can even do a search for sex dirty. And these are some of the other topics, right? You know, a brave, bold, blissful sex life. Just go ahead and take a look around exploring on there. But let's get into the tip for tonight.
Okay.
So the tip for tonight, we're about to go through the tip and explain it, but you know, we're going to put this link here in the comments so you can go ahead and copy it, because you know, we go from the kitchen to our bedroom and we forgot what we went to get, right? So you're going to forget this tip, but you might remember if you take this link, put it on your phone, put it on put it in an alarm with a reminder for it to come up, and just have these tips come to you rather than you having to remember it. So we've got this little video, I think it's only 4 or 5 minutes long, a real short video that will summarize the tip that we're about to go through right now. All right, the 3 no's of naughty. Now, before, I just want to say, I know you're going to talk about some of this content, Raj, but I just want to give a little disclaimer here. Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm so glad that Philippe is here, because he's going to be talking about consent in a really beautiful, sensual, awesome way. So what we're talking about here, you know, yes means yes and nothing less, and a no means no. But in this case of a relationship where you're exploring playfully your maybes, this is a fun game to play. But absolutely, it's always good, whether you have your safe word, to know that this is not the 3 no's of naughty, that I really want you to stop right now. But this is having a little bit of fun with some of those nuances. And as we said before, this tip came up when something actually happened between Raj and I. You want to?
Yeah. So one of the things that we face in relationship, either as the man or woman, is stretching the boundaries on what's just normal for us to experience sexually. And because can be discomfort around doing that, often we don't do it. We don't stretch the boundaries, and we end up doing the
same thing, predictable, boring, stale.
Right. And, you know, not that TV is ever as good as sex, but often if your sex life is getting a bit boring, then you're less compelled to actually engage in sex with your partner.
What's more entertaining, right?
Yeah. And further, ourselves fully sexually propagates through our entire being and how we then are out in the world.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know the better sex we're having, the more connected we are, the more expressed and confident. It also brings me back to my feminine and Raj back to his masculine, because I can get pretty task-oriented. And he can sometimes get into a emotional space if he's not taking too much, you know, enough time to get grounded. And so there's obviously so many benefits. But let's not digress to too many benefits. What I meant of telling was the story of how 3 no's of naughty came to be.
Sure, I was getting there. Just wanted to emphasize the importance
little
of
context.
why you would want to expand.
Okay.
Right? And
yes, that's right. Simon Sinek, is that what he says? You always want to find the why.
The why.
Yeah, we like to take business principles, apply them to your sex life and your relationship, and even the relationship practices, apply them to business.
So,
One of these
taking
nights.
all of that into account, Gabby and I were having an intimate evening, and I was faced with that sort of dilemma. Do I try to stretch, or do I sort of shut myself down and not say that thing that I wanted to try?
Yeah, what's she going to say? Is she going to even, is it going to ruin the moment if I even bring it up?
Like, right, will it completely ruin the entire evening? It's like a minefield.
You want to do
right?
what?
Totally. And so Gabby responded to what I said with this sort of coy.
I went like this. He proposed. You may remember. Don't say it. But you remember when he proposed. But I don't remember what it was. But I remember thinking at first I felt my body almost like go like take a breath like no, and then caught myself and was a little bit intrigued, but a little bit scared to even tell him I was intrigued. So what came out of my mouth was something like, no. And he kind of looked at me a little weird. It was a long no that kind of turned up as a question mark at the end. And we both started laughing, and we started saying, well, let's explore what some of these no's are. So the first no is this, no, it's like, this is a number one no, take that idea off the table. Even the thought of it is upsetting. I don't even want to talk about this. If we're going to go on and have any intimate, sexy time, it's got to end right now.
How does that no sound?
That's no.
That's pretty clear.
Yeah. Otherwise known as stop or Very clear. You can play around with it. Or no, 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 no. You can have some fun with it, Ethan. Yeah. The second number two is.
Oh, let me just say something about that. So even with that no, you always want to be like, quote unquote, a yes. Completely shut your partner down from suggesting something. And that's why the 3 no's are good, because he knows that your partner knows that you're playing the game. And, you can say no in a way that doesn't shut your partner down, but rather knows him that that's off the table.
Yeah, you might even be playful about it, be like, no, 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 but bringing some lightness and play to it, but speaking clearly.
Yeah.
And then the second note here is, okay, this is possible, but it's really going to take something. I'm not that interested now. I'm not seeking to be convinced, but I could be. That's where I was with that no. It was this long, like, kind of questioning, like, no, I'm not so sure. And then by the end of the evening, I will acknowledge that where he got me to was not to the yes just yet. And I do appreciate you saying that about the yes, Raj. We wrote a blog about yesing your partner, which I learned a lot from Annie Lala, of, just naturally, and from Amber Otto, and just wanting to really yes your partner, default to the yes, unless there's a real reason to say no. And even then you may want to stretch yourself, not to be a doormat, but to bring joy and trust and happiness to your beloved and your relationship. If they're happy, it's good for you as well. But anyway, I digress. Back to this third no is okay, you're not yet, but you're close. I am interested. I'm not quite there yet. I want to be convinced. So keep trying. This is more of the luring no. This is like the no. It's like you're kind of saying yes, but you're like, no. Like you gotta try a little bit harder, like jump a little bit further, and maybe we'll get there.
I'm turned on already.
But I'm into it.
That's even the way that you say no can be a turn on.
So again, this is not a enunciation or an intonation that has to be copied exactly. Play around with it, explore it, just, make sure that communication is clear with your beloved. And of course, always have that trust and safety in place, that you're really clear on what really is your no. Again, you may use a safe word, pineapple, whatever. There's something to be really clear about that. But that is the 3 no's and naughty. So we want to wrap up with your action option. But first, Philippe, any thoughts on this that you want to chime in here before we give them the action option?
This is totally awesome. I teach a class at festivals, and I'm actually going to be teaching it at Lucidity Festival. And it's called 50 Shades of Yes, and it's essentially
Nice.
it's essentially the same thing that you guys are talking about, except I call it different levels of yes. But 0 would be like a no, and 25 would be like maybe, and then a 50 would be like a hell yeah. So when you're engaging with people, there's different levels of yes that keep on occurring, evolving. So from 1 minute to the next, things could change, or from one offering to the next, it could be a yes or a yes or no, not really, or not in a million years. I will never do that with you, even if you cajole, even if you beg me, because I'm not into it. So to be able to be with someone as they feel into their yes, their maybe, or their no, I think it's really, really key to give people a sense that their answer is valid, that wherever they're at is perfect, and to be able to be with them in that place. And very often when you actually fully accept someone's no, their yes becomes a lot more powerful. It might even change. If you say yes to their no, they might actually suddenly feel like more of a yes or less of a no than they were, because they know that their no matters. And then on the flip side of that, sometimes I've heard people say, your yes is only as good as your no. Never say no, because they're always giving in. Parts of it is they don't necessarily either know what they want or know what's okay with them, or they're not sure that their no is going to be well received. And they're kind of scared. And so to actually create a space for people to say no, even as an exercise, will automatically make them feel safer. If you say, let's try your no, and you give them like a crazy example, and you say, thank you for taking care of yourself. And immediately they're going to start feeling safer and better, because even though it was a crazy example and they know it, they will still feel like their no was received, and immediately they'll feel safer. So I'll often when I engage with somebody,
say there's a little delay there. Yeah, I often say no safety, no surrender. And so the more you can create that safety, the more that surrender gets to show up.
Yeah, I see surrender as just a form of emotional and somatic yes, essentially. It's you don't see it. It's not necessarily a verbal yes, but surrender is a form of energetic yes. And so often, if I engage with somebody new, I will say, I'm going to make you an offering, and you're going to say no, and I'm going to say thank you, and they're like, really? How do you know I'm going to say no? And then I come up with the craziest example I can think of, and they say no, and I say thank you, and immediately we feel more intimate.
That's great.
Wow.
That's great. And I really love what you saying about, people not having as comfortable a time in saying no. And for example, you and I share the same Burning Man camp, and we worked a long time on the manifesto of the culture. And what I love about when you sign up in our camp is you actually check a box saying, I'm responsible for the sexual energy I am bringing, and to making sure consent is there. That is first and foremost. However, there's an addition that you are also responsible for saying, this isn't for me, to really encourage people. But I do love that the framing you're having here with this playful exercise of people practicing their no. Maybe we can even fold that into opening ceremony sometime. Yeah. Just have everybody practice a little no with each other and a little yes, Let's have some yes and no practice. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, some people may not notice, but I'm well known for creating intimacy parties, otherwise known as sex parties every once in a while. It depends on what you want to call it. But ultimately, it's a place for people to engage and practice in community. So that part of my bio about engaging with people, creating events for people to engage in community, that's exactly that. And whenever we do an opening ceremony, we always give people an opportunity to say yes, no, yes, and no, but. Do it verbally and also non-verbally. Because sometimes being verbal just isn't it. It's just like everybody's really really quiet, and you're engaging in a really primal way, and suddenly you have to engage in conversation. So to actually become more sensitive around what's a nonverbal no, what does that look like? And most people know what that looks like with a cat or with a dog, but they have no idea what it looks like for a human. So I turn people into cats and have them practice. And then they're like, oh, wow.
That's amazing. Now, I just want to say that again, because that was so good what you said. So there's the yes and, there's the no, and the yes but. Did I get that right?
No but. So the yes and is, yes, I would like a massage, and I would like you to do it on my back. So you're a yes to the initial offering, but you want to modify it a little bit so it's perfect for you, which is great, because it's, instead of saying no, like, may I give you a massage? No. Well, I do want a massage, but I need to. So it's better to say yes
just
and.
Yes.
And then there's yes, and then the no but is, well, no, I don't want a massage, but I still want to engage with you. So, but I would like you to feed me a chocolate truffle. How about that?
I love the way you did that with your face. How about that?
You redirect the offering into something else that you do want. So you could just, it says, so when I tell people, when you say no, give a generous, compassionate no. Sometimes it takes balls to make an offering, because, you know, some people have a hard time. Maybe their self-esteem isn't super pumped up right now. They don't really feel it. Or maybe they're super attracted, and that makes them feel like they're at a disadvantage. Whatever the reason is, to actually make an offer can take a lot of balls. And if you're a woman hearing about this, just pick the body part that fits you, in this case. And so to actually say no can really be taken personally, and that's normal. We're just humans. And so to actually respond in a generous, compassionate no, like, no, thank you. That sounded really awesome. That's just not for me right now. And if you do want to engage with this person, then you give them something else to engage with. So if it's not the massage, or if it's not, you know, you can't caress my breast, but I would love that massage, actually. That would be awesome. And then it creates maybe a different pace.
I was going to say, I often like looking at us as adults as actually children, like what's the 4-year-old? And, you know, if you looked at it as like a couple of toys, you know, the offers being toys, and, you know, one wants one, and you're like, not that one, but how about this one? And they're like, okay, that looks good. You know?
Totally.
Because we're all a bunch of 4-year-olds when we're emotional, and when you're making an offer, as you're calling it, it is vulnerable. You know, you are in one way or another, and no matter how confident people seem, everybody has their tender spot for being rejected. So it's always a courageous act, even within an intimate relationship. You know, to reach out is a courageous act.
Yeah.
At any point, it's not tonight, or oh, not that again, or whatever. So really holding that compassion. Thanks for that.
And a no can occur as a disconnection. That's why I recommend people give a no that is connected. If it's compassionate and generous, then it's going to feel connected. Thank you, but no, not right now. Or no, you're still awesome. I still love you, but just no. You know, and it's so it's not you're not compensating for your no, but you're letting the person know that what you're saying no to is the offer.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, most guys that would be in the position of asking, for me personally anyway, any no that isn't connected like that, like you said, it kind of shuts down any ask for like 3 months.
We're sensitive. Men are sensitive. We forget about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're starting to get into some of the juicy bits on your tips. Let's wrap up this one with this action option, if you'd share that screen, Raj. And then let's get to we'll dive back in with Philippe's juicy awesomeness. I love it. So if you've seen our show before, you know that we have a action option. Ready, Raj? And that is the mission. Thank goodness for the Mission Impossible movie, because that show is pretty old, so people wouldn't even know what that theme was. But this isn't a Mission Impossible. This is totally possible. It's doable. It's even bite-sized, but it is an option. So it's your action option should you choose to accept it. We encourage you to, before you even get started, tell your beloved that you've got some fun ideas and you want to spice things up in your sex life. Tell them that you've got this game you want to play about the 3 No's and Naughty, and that you want to really have just a relaxed, fun way that you can explore what are those outer edges of your pleasure boundaries, and yet still respecting where those boundaries are, so that you're feeling safe and you can be surrendered and still have things not be boring and predictable, but feel both encouraged in your relationship, or there might be more than another person, might be all, to extend into where that might be, where those boundaries might be.
Yeah, one thing that you might want to do in this process is practice what the no's sound like.
Yes, as Philippe was just saying before, right? Let's do some no practicing and some yes practicing. You're like, this is my yes, like, yes, I have some concerns, but yes. And then there's yes, and then there's like, yes, let's do that now. And so we could just be practicing our yeses and our nos. I like that one. We'll fold that into this.
Yeah, or any variation on the nos. It could be the number system, like Philippe is suggesting, the 50 shades of
yes. 50 shades of yes. So in your second step, or no, 50 shades of no. But I did like that. So in the second step, getting started. So this is, setting the stage to be creating an intimate environment. Sometimes that's a shorter on-ramp and you might be having a quickie. Sometimes it's a longer and you might be setting some beautiful candles and music and aromatherapy out, or who knows what you may be doing. But in step, you can also, by the way, take a look at the Sex Dirty before and as it starts for some more tips on that step. And then in the third step, this is when you're in it, right? This is the heat is on, as they say. So as you're on-ramping into this sexy time, let your beloved know that you're going to be trying these 3 No's of Naughty out, so that you can indicate how interested or confronted that they might be, that they can tell you that. You can practice your no's, they can practice their no's, practice your yeses, so you each know, have a little fun of what those might be, so everyone feels safe before you even get started with the exploration.
Right, and we always love to give a bonus, right? So you can invite your beloved to make their own edgy suggestions and moves and listen to your 3 No's of Naughty until you find a resounding yes. So it's not a one-way thing. You can invite your partner to play the other role as well.
I know. Let's play a game. Let's explore the 3 No's of Naughty. That sounds like a fun game, doesn't it? Certainly will pop you out of the predictable. And here to pop you out of the predictable as well, let's go ahead and Raj, go to the next slide, because it's right, we're right on schedule to be diving into Philippe's tips here on how to keep the sex dirty during.
Great, and I just want to let the audience know that if you want to jump in to the Hangout with us, you can click the Join the Hangout button underneath the video player. You may need to refresh your browser window to make that button active. And if you do join us, we'll send you our Fights Clean Sex Dirty cheat sheet for free after the show. Philippe, take it away.
I actually just wanted to ask you, just in reference to those to those 3 No's of Naughty, have you ever played the Yes game?
Tell us what the Yes game is. I just got giddy when you said that. Have you ever played the Yes game? No, Philippe, tell us what the Yes game is.
Since you have the No game, so it feels like you should have the Yes game too. So the Yes game is very simple. You basically tell your partner, let's do this, and they have to say yes, unless they say no. But the point of that game is you're pushing the edge. But ideally, you want to play the game as long as possible. That's the first rule. You want to play as long as possible. The second rule is you have to say yes unless you really don't want to. So it's really about pushing it. So if you say to Gabby, let's do some spankings, and of course Gabby can say no, but that ends the game. And so she has to find it inside of herself to say yes, and she could say yes but she can't say no. So the idea is for both. And so once she says yes, Raj knows that she's going to come up with something that's also really potentially really tricky. So he has to be careful not to make it too hard for her. Otherwise, she's going to say yes, If she does, she's gonna
Payback's a bitch.
retaliate, ranking the the level to rise up to. And so ideally you play for as long as you can. And of course, there's nothing wrong with saying no, and then you can play the 3 no's that you want.
Sure.
No game at that point. So that's the yes game. So you're finding an opportunity to creating an opportunity to push the other person's edge, knowing that they will push yours in return, and see how far you can take it.
It's got some nuances of the 5 minutes of anything from Rano and Sierra's episode, right? You have 5 minutes of anything. One person says, I want this for 5 minutes. And then the other person, gets what they want for 5 minutes. And then you just see, it's not like a time commitment or whatnot, like, oh, we're going to go get it on. But you just see where it goes with those 5 minutes. It may not go anywhere. It could be just a foot massage for 5 minutes. You never know. But I like this idea of the game goes on until you say no, that the no kills the game. So you don't want to say the no too early, because if you don't want to say something too much, because if they say no, then the game doesn't continue.
Well, the other thing is, if you say yes, then you get to ask, and then the other person, might leave as a result. So there's it's a little bit of a risk and kind of edgy, and and of course it's important not to take it too personally, because the point is to have fun. The point is not to make the other person fail. The point is just to find new ways to engage that maybe you were not available to, or you didn't think you could ask before, but now it's a perfect opportunity to say something ridiculous.
That's great.
So there you go.
It's a perfect opportunity to say something ridiculous. I love it. Oh my gosh, we got to put that one in the notes. It's a perfect opportunity to say something ridiculous. I mean, come on, that is wonderful.
Hey, if you're gonna say no, it better be as part of a game.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, so let's go back to the 3 tips. So today I've you guys asked me, like, what are three of the 3 things that I really pay attention to when I'm having sex and when I'm engaging in a sexy way or a sensual way. And so these 3 tips actually relate to there's a lot underneath each of them. So it looks kind of simple. So I'm just gonna name them, describe them a little bit. So engage gracefully essentially means like engage with someone in a way that feels right for everyone. So consent comes into it, pace comes into it. We're going to get into it in just a minute. Slowing down is really about feeling more. Even though I didn't say it in here, slowing down is about like having the opportunity to pay attention to more of what's going on. And oftentimes people are having sex, they're trying to have the most pleasure, they're trying to do it really quickly because that's what seems to be causing the most pleasure or the most sensations. And what they're missing is that in that process, there's a whole lot that goes on that they're missing out on. So that's the second tip. We'll get back into it. And then the third one is, well, if you're going to engage really well with somebody, like what are some of the ways that will actually create more pleasure or more aliveness in the process? So that's why the tip says engage sensually and primally. We're going to get back into that as well. Each of those could be a class unto itself. And in fact, engaging gracefully is one class. Slowing down gets mentioned in a number of ways in the different classes that I have. And engaging sensually and primally is a whole class that I call the language of touch. And is also the art of sensation play that I teach at Festival. And I will teach that last one at Lucidity again this weekend.
You're doing the language of touch, or you mean the 50 Shades of Yes, or both of them?
I'm doing 50 Shades of Yes and the art of sensation play.
The art of sensation and play. Nice. Mm-hmm. I like
that. Sensation play. That last one could have been called BDSM for hippies, because there's just a whole lot of hippie-ish kind of people at festivals. But if you say BDSM at a festival, then people are thinking like whips and chains and getting tied up. And yes, I mean, it's all of these things. But engaging sensually really is about connecting with someone in a way that creates a lot of physical sensations. And engaging primally is, I'll get back to it. All right. So let's go to the first one, which is engaging gracefully. When you engage with someone, so I'm going to shift us to an analogy. So imagine you're in front of someone and you want to engage in a dance with them. So the dance analogy is a really great way to connect with with how you would connect with if you're going to be kissing or heavy petting or having sex. It's a very similar thing. It's physical, it's somatic. And when I say somatic and physical, you can interchange the two words. Really what it means is you're engaging with your bodies and your five senses. When you're engaging with somebody as if you were going to dance with them, there's a few things that are really important. One, it's important to know how to kind of have a sense of how they're feeling. Because when you sense how they're feeling, you have a sense of where they're at internally, what's going on inside of them. And it's so often that it happens so often that a partner will start to engage sexually with their other partner, and then the other person's like, well, I'm not really feeling it. I'm not really into it. And what's missing often is the connection. There's an emotional connection that's missing, and that emotional connection makes the other person feel like if how they feel changes, then the other person will get it. And if the first person how they feel changes, basically what needs to happen is that the two people need to remain connected emotionally. That emotional connection allows for a deeper sense of what people want. And we're going to get into that in just a second. So the first thing is feeling into somebody's feelings. The second one is the pace. If you go too fast or too slow, then the other person is going to feel like you're just not meeting them. And the third piece is following their desires. What does the other person want? And their desires is really about like where they want to go in this engagement, in this interaction. The fourth piece that's really important is where are their boundaries? Not go.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put these things together, the feelings, the desire, the pace, the desires, the boundaries, this really gives us a sense of where is this person at and how do I connect with them. So your rules about the no's, for example, those were all about like where is the person not going to go. Engaging about boundaries. So where is this person not going to go so that you can actually meet them there. When it comes to desires, you want to know I'm so sorry. And to be able to bring that to them. So you don't want to go too far. You want to bring them what they want. You want to go at their pace, and you want to feel into them so that they know you're with them. All of these things together gives an engagement where I see you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, here, actually turn that off there.
It's us. We just had the slide deck up there as well. So you had that as well, going back and forth between us, but we're still here.
What I'm realizing is I was talking to the slide, and I just wanted to be able to talk to you guys.
Sure, great. Yeah, we'll turn that off. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The point of engaging gracefully is to really connect with the other person at all these different levels. So if I'm like, well, how is sex for you? How are you feeling right now? How is sex for you? What kind of sex do you like? Where do you like to go? Where do you not like to go? This gives you opportunities to feel into their playground. So imagine that where they're at is where they're at on the playground. What they want is essentially which toys they want to play with. Their boundary is this, well, how hard they can play or how lightly they can play. And the pace is, well, it's really about how intensely, how fast, in what ways. And so to be able to really feel into people around these different things, often the best thing to do is just to ask them. You just ask, like, what do you want right now? Do you want more? Do you want less? What about here? What about that? Tell me your no. Like, where's your no? You know, let's find your no in this kind of engagement. So in the middle of the action, in the middle of the, you know, in the engagement, the sexual engagement, I'm always constantly asking people, like, how fast do you want this? Where do you want this? How do you want this? What do you want? And sometimes I ask verbally, sometimes I ask non-verbally.
It's amazing because sometimes, you know, you would think that you shouldn't ask because that breaks the, you know, the moment or whatever. So this is great. Just that feedback loop.
Yeah, you're not like, what do you want? There's a way to be asking what you want. I just don't understand. I wish you would just tell me what you want. Like, that was probably not so hot. That's not what you mean. Is that right, Philippe?
No. I mean, you're making offerings. You're making suggestions, and that in order to do that, you need to have a number of things that you like yourself. When you're going back to the no game, what you would have to actually suggest things that you want for yourself. So what you're trying to do in this particular game of finding each other's playground is you want to know if you're playing on the same playground, and you want to know if you want to play with the same toys or the same what do you call those, the installations. So sexually, give me 1 second.
That actually feels kind of nice to take a second.
Slowing down.
I'm slowing down. We're modeling that, yeah.
Absolutely. And what I'm realizing is that I'm just really in my head. And how many times have we been in this kind of situation, or just in our head and trying to explain everything? And so
I have some questions that I would love to ask just to get in dialogue a bit more. Is now a good time for that, or do you want to keep saying some more?
Absolutely the right time. No, go for it.
Okay, great. Yeah, great. And thank you for taking some space there.
Yeah, he's been writing down some notes here. He's got some questions for you.
Yeah. One of the things that just came to me that I've never really thought about is that just being present with our partner and, you know, this engaging gracefully, all of these things actually increases the level of presence. And often we're either uncomfortable, nervous, too turned on, overly turned on, not too turned.
Well, overly, like maybe just focused on yourself, or
yourself.
Or just...
And then this other thing came to me that if it's not working for them, it's not working. Because how many times have you experienced like being touched sexually, and if it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good, and it's like just not working. And when you're not connected with the person that you're engaging with, then that's can happen, right? It can happen that what you're doing, the other person isn't actually liking. And what I hear you saying in large part is stay connected with your partner, you know, communicate verbally, non-verbally, and just create that sexual connection so that you're both enjoying the experience and feeding off each other rather than just being in your head, you know, because we can get in our head sexually. It's so charged, and, you know, even with people we're comfortable with, we can totally get in our head, and then it doesn't lead to an positively escalated sexual experience is one of the big takeaways for me.
You know, one thing I was realizing as you were speaking is one of the things that I often do is I'll start with basically engaging with the person. That would be a before, not a during, but I'll say it anyway. Is to actually ask the other person, like, what kind of intentions do you have? What are your desires? What are your boundaries? You can't really ask for the pace because that changes all the time, but really going with intention, fears, is to just get a sense of where this person's at. to be able to connect with them, so that later on, when you're in the middle of the action, you can actually remember all of these things and kind of keep track of where they're at and how things are going for them.
Yeah.
And to be able to say, hey, I remember you said you wanted me to finger you, and that was really exciting to you. Do you still want that? Now, there's a verbal version of that. You can in the middle of the action stop and say, hey, do you still want that? Is this now the moment that I'm going to insert my finger inside of you? And you can ask it in any kind of sexy way that you want. Can non-verbally sort of let them know that you're available for that, whether it's to, with the example of the finger, to have your finger right there and to just look at them and say, is now the time. And they'll know. Or if they don't know, they'll give you this quizzical look, like, what are you asking? I have no idea. And then you can say.
Yeah.
Or leaning towards you, or kind
That's
of
right.
tensing up. There's a lot of different cues and ways to stay present, but certainly even vocalizing as well. Raj, what you said about being present here, you said if it's not working for them, it's not working. It reminded me of what Tim Bratton said. Remember when he said, if she's not turned on, why bother? Is what he said.
Yeah. So here's the thing about being turned on. Sometimes it's about the body. It is not quite there yet, and it needs time. It's a lot faster. Ideas come faster, emotions come a little bit slower, and then the body often comes even more slowly. So I'd like to take it to the second tip, and then I'll probably go back to the first one. And what I'm realizing, the place where I got stuck just a minute ago, or 10 minutes ago, was engaging with these different aspects, the feelings, the pace, the desires, and the boundaries, is something that required like an initial conversation. But it's something you have to pay attention to during the action, during the engagement. Because if you don't know, well, first of all, if you don't know what the answers are, like what are the boundaries, what are the desires, then you won't be able to pay attention to that because you won't know what they are. But it's important to keep on checking in, to be able to compare, to be able to.
You never know.
Yeah, you just never know how things are going to change, but it's a good starting point. And what often happens is, yes,
go ahead.
Is people will just go for what they want, but they never communicated it, and they never heard what the other person wants. So I guess what I'm saying is that
it's more of this like, what can I get away with kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, and you're missing out on really finding out ahead of time. But what is it that, what's the overlap?
Right.
Especially with the new
lover.
I
will say, every quote unquote kind of crazy sexual thing I've ever done, if you ever asked me if I would do that, I would have said no.
Right. I love that no. That's a great no.
That's a new one. Oh, like that's absurd. I'm not even triggered by it. It's just so absurd. It's not even going to happen.
So the point of the first tip is, once you know these things, you have to continue to engage with that information with the person. And if the person says, you know what, I totally changed my mind, this is no longer a boundary, or if you feel like that boundary is not really a solid one, and they're guiding you through it, then it's a different story. But the point is,
or it can change moment by moment, right? I mean, with Raj, I certainly know my needs and desires can change moment by moment. There's certainly some go-tos. Like, for example, a go-to, anytime Raj can go straight to my neck, and no matter what mood I'm in, and whether I'm mad or whatever, I get a kiss on the side or back of the neck, I am weak in the knees. Does not matter. I could be so angry, and if he can get anywhere in there, I'm going to melt. Raj, on the other hand, if I go near his neck, when he's feeling grounded and confident and comfortable, he can even lean his neck back. If there's any tension or anxiety that he has or stress, if I come in, even in this zone, I can't even get over here. I'd be like, I come in here and do what you do, Raj, if I'm over here. Good. No, but the ear, he does that.
That's a great nonverbal no right there. Totally.
Right?
Like kitty cats do the same thing, right? So one of the things I want to
Right.
know, I want us to, I usually tell my clients to pay attention to, and same for classes, is especially around boundaries. If you don't know the other person's boundary, this is a huge risk that you will eventually meet it. And when you meet it, if they're the kind of person who has trauma or abuse or something really intense in their history, whatever they call it, when you meet that boundary, you could re-trigger them. You could actually, it could be harmful to them. So, and it's not
the thing you want to surprise someone about.
No, and that's why asking for what boundaries are is actually really, really not just useful so that you don't get a surprise, but it's actually safer. And
so a little bit of boundaries, a background check first.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Can
Because
you-
this way you don't end
you
up like.
suggest- yeah.
Suggest what?
I was just going to say, how do you engage in that? Can you sort of model how you would engage in that conversation in a way that's still sexy?
Yeah. I mean, in the moment, I will say, in the moment, in the middle of the action, I'll say, "Would you like this?" And I just keep it as simple as possible, because you don't want people to misunderstand you. If I'm in a really primal place with the other person,
although one sec, come on, Philippe. Philippe, just to pause you, we could also like do you want this? We could also make, do you want this? You know?
Oh well, yes.
Yes.
So many ways to ask. There's so many ways to ask, from zero edge to cutting. There's the, how would you like this? That's a very easy non-pressure.
But you can come also with a menu and bring some play to it, or you could bring, let's have some play, but it's like those same words, right? But really bring some play to, how are you asking that? What can I get you, my dear? To, all sorts of varieties of characters you can take on to ask that question.
Yeah, and you could just say, Raj, if you keep your neck there, I'm gonna come and bite it.
That's kind of hot.
Right? So then that's more edgy. It's not even a request. Yeah. It's a statement, but it's a way to test somebody's boundaries. And there are ways that are more considerate and give the other person more of a chance to say no.
Right.
But in this case, you can still say no, but you can just get the hell away as well.
Right.
We're noticing that we are getting short on time here. So I know we've talked about all of these to some degree, but is there anything else you want to say about any one of these three before we want to show people how they can find out more about you and more about relationship fun and games as well?
Okay, so engaging restfully was the first one. It's really about paying attention to feelings, pace, desires, boundaries, and also doing it in a really consensual way. So you want people to be able to say no and feel like their no is respected, as long as they're yes. Slowing down, that's a relatively simple one. You're in the middle of the action, to actually, instead of trying to go faster, to create natural pauses in the engagement. Like find a way to give people a chance to integrate all of these sensations rather than be overwhelmed by them.
Integrate these sensations. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. I mean, people can get overwhelmed by sensations, and if you don't give them a chance to integrate them and fully absorb them, then they essentially miss out on all the stuff they can't absorb. So, and also, especially for men with women, but it could be the other way around, to give women a chance to basically take a breather and not feel like you're trying to go for more, harder. It will actually give men a really how would I say this? It will way to create more safety for the woman, and the woman will say, "Wow, this guy actually is allowing me to take my space, take a breath, and actually express myself." And that's a very useful thing to do. So that's for the slowing down part. And the other part about slowing down is that it allows for things to bubble up that you would not have thought of. It's really about feeling into what the next step is. If you try to go with an agenda, then the result is you might get there, but what about all the things that could have happened along the way? So often when people tend to feel like the spiciness is kind of going out the window in their relationship, I usually tell them to slow down, because what they're missing is the complexity and the richness of the person right next to them in favor of fulfilling some fantasies which are inevitably complex than the real thing.
And speaking of these fantasies, the sensually and primally, of course, whenever I see primally, I think of that 9 Inch Nails song.
Okay, so sensually and primally is really, really simple. So to be able to engage with just the body, and paying attention to essentially just a few things, but engaging essentially is about creating sensations that feel pleasurable for yourself while you're giving pleasurable sensation to the other person. Like, have you ever seen a cat who does not touch for their own pleasure? Always touch for their own pleasure.
Never.
And if you're human, you can actually do both at the same time. You can do something that feels pleasurable to you while creating pleasure for the other person. So when you're touching, if you can do both at the same time, because that takes a lot of attention, you can actually create pleasure for everyone, and the other person can do the same with you. Now, how can that look like?
Pleasure for everybody.
What can that look like? That can look like using your nails to drag on the other person's skin at a different pace, a different intensity. It can look like digging your nails into some body parts and figuring out which ones are the most pleasurable and which ones are the most intense. It can look like using your teeth to bite into the flesh of another person and find muscles, the best place, and do it slowly, because you can do it really fast. Yes, exactly. But bones are a lot more painful to bite on than muscle and flesh. Nibbles.
I was just rehearsing for later. I'm just warming up.
Oh, you guys are just perfect. Bites and nibbles, grabbing and feel really good, especially on the lower back. The muscles on the lower back feel really good to grab.
We like to say a little ass grab goes a long way.
Yeah.
Although we learned early on that Raj doesn't like to be grabbed. He likes to be caressed. He doesn't like the squeeze.
Grab is good. It's the goose.
It's the goose. He does no goosing.
No goose.
Yes. So yeah, I had to learn, right? I had a Raj ass caress education.
Try the waist. The waist is also really good to grab. The waist, or just the back of the waist. That can just feel really good. You can really feel held, and it's not an ass. It's different. So grab different parts of the body. Move the other person around with your whole body, and that's all just sensations. So now take that and allow your inner animal to do the same things. Right? And if you don't know what that feels like, just be a kitty cat, or be a wolf, or be an animal that you can relate to. So you're no longer just using your nails. You're actually doing it in a way that feels more primal. And
love that.
Primality,
we just got these, we like to say there's, sorry, you were cutting out there. Go ahead.
Primality is your ability to be alive in your most primal, deepest self. This is about no thinking. It's not even about feeling. It's really about, like, what is it that you'd most deeply desire to do with your body. So it's less about pleasure and more about what you want in a way that's most alive.
And I like that, you talk about taking on the, imagine being an animal. Raj and I, we like to say points for props. Props keeps things playful. So we have, whether it be hats or coins or stress toys or sex toys or all sorts of
animal claws.
Animal claws is the one I was going to think of when you were talking about being an animal. We just got these little metal finger pieces that you put on your hands. They actually have little rhinestones on them. Yeah. They have black rhinestones on them. So they're kind of sexy and fun. And so you have them on your fingers, right? Yep. So fun. So fun. A little play. And then they go clink, clink, clink when you touch your fingers. It's very fun.
But here's the thing. Playing primal, your primal self. Playing with your primal self doesn't require any toys. You already have all of the body that you need. And so the toys are great, but in the middle of the action, you're not going to just say, 1 second, let me get my nails, or let me get my strap. I mean, you could do that. But
well, you laughed. We were laughing because when Raj and I know we'll wrap up, honey. I know he's telling me I'm going on here, but we actually we made a list of our top turn-ons and turn-offs, and one of Raj's top turn-ons is outfit changes, and one of my top turn-offs is outfit changes, because he likes the variety, but I would hate that we'd be in the middle of it. He'd like jump up and go get like, oh, put on this blue button-down shirt, and I'm like, wait a second, like you're in the middle of it. So what we have done is we now have a big basket, a 5-gallon bucket that has our toolkit on it, our Fights Clean Sex Dirty toolkit. And it has costumes and hats and toys and all sorts of things right there by the side of the bed. So if for some reason we're feeling primal and you're like, I'm going to go animal on you, give me a second, and I can put the little fingers on and go there. So certainly your animal is there and you need no props, but we also like to, just for fun, bring in the props sometimes. Points for props.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, bring in as many props as you want if that facilitates your experience.
But they're not necessary.
They're not. They're not. I mean, you could be having sex 1 minute and you can be digging your nails into the person's back or the person's ass and creating sensations in a way that basically makes them feel more alive and makes their animal sort of rise up and sort of engage with you. And so I think you could just play around with that and see where that leads you. But it also adds a little bit of risk into the bedroom, and maybe bring the nasty that you were talking about.
Nice. Well, the risk, nothing great comes without great risk, right? So, and it also, that risk, when you feel those edges and then you still are contained in them, it builds that trust, or here it builds is what your website here is, exquisite love, right? Exquisite trust, yep. Exquisite love. If you'd like to find out more about Philippe Lewis and his offerings, first of all, maybe if you're around in Southern California, come to the Lucidity Festival starting tomorrow. Although maybe you're watching this on replay, but you can check out his website there. And if you're new to Relationship Fun and Games, please come and check us out at relationshipfunandgames.com. And we have a free gift for you, the Relationship Reset Kit, which is our 4-part mini email course, and our guidebook on how to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty. And we'll go ahead and copy that URL, put it in the comments, so you don't have to write it all down. You can just click it. We like to keep it easy here. And then finally, we want to mention our ebook if you want to dive into deeper to some of these tips. And it's really laid out in a way that you can peruse and find the ones that are most of interest to you, the ones that most resonate, that you want to explore and try out. And Raj, would you just go back a couple slides there? I want to show them one more. And so next week, you'll join us for Fights Clean After. So we'll go back to looking at the topic of Fights Clean. It'll be what to do after an argument. And in this case, this couple has actually split up, or what many nowadays are calling conscious uncoupling. So what is the art of turning upsets into opportunities? This applies whether you're in a relationship and wanting to work it out, or work through that argument. But even if your relationship is over, what is it that you can learn after an argument on how to move forward, so you can take that argument into intimacy and the breakdown into a breakthrough?
Yeah, we hope to see you next week. And Philippe, thank you so much for all of this amazing information and conversation today. Every time you think that you know something about this realm, there's so much more to know. And
we had Zipporah Kingsbury on once, and she said, would you stop the screen sharing so we can see him? And Zipporah said, no, I promise you, with your sex life, no matter where you're starting from, you're just scratching the surface.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much,
Philippe. Thanks for helping us scratch the surface tonight. It was a delight having you, and for all of your wisdom, and I look forward to finding out more. We'll come check you out this weekend at the festival.
Oh. And Lucidity.
Have a good
yes.
Have a good night, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next week when we look at how to keep the fights clean after. Same time, 5:30 Pacific time on Wednesday.
Yep, looking forward to seeing you then. Have a great week, and of course, as we like to say, save, be a nasty for your sex life. If we can be of any support to you, please reach out to us. because life is too short to be in a crappy relationship, right? As we like to say, wonderful is worth it. I guess we like to say a lot of things, don't we?
We do like
Save
to
and be nasty for your sex life. Wonderful is worth it. And we'll have more to say next week. We hope to hear from you as well. Thanks for joining us live. And make sure if you were live and you saw that little message, go ahead and email us so we can make sure we can send you that cheat sheet of our 16 top tips on how to keep the fights clean and the sex dirty. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Have a great evening. Thanks again, Philippe.